Welcome to the Project Mom Podcast. I'm your host, Emily Gorey, mom of a sweet baby girl and an ever-evolving entrepreneur. On this show, we will explore the intersection of motherhood and entrepreneurship. We will share stories of moms just like you and me with the goal of fostering community and comfort in knowing that we are not alone in our experiences. Please take a moment to subscribe to the podcast wherever you listen to ensure you get all the updated episodes and releases. Welcome to today's episode of the Project Mom Podcast. Today I'm chatting with Kelsey Romine. She's a mom of 3 kids and a custom branding and website designer. She made a choice to transition from teacher to entrepreneur in order to be the mom she ultimately wanted to be. So Kelsey, welcome. Thank you so much for being here and chatting with me today.
Thank you for having me. Gosh, I even got emotional at that interview, like that intro, like to be the mom I want to be.
Right? Know. I mean, it's something we all strive
exactly
for.
Right,
And I think, right, that's why these conversations are so valuable, because I don't think and maybe this is where we start to, I don't think we ever, maybe I might shoot myself in the foot here. I'm not sure we ever get to the part where we are 100% the mom we want to be, because we're always striving a little bit more for balance or navigation or harmony or, whatever it is that you kind of believe that narrative to be. I think, right, we're always not quite where we want to be. But when we think about it in terms of our kids, they just want us present, right? They just want us there. And I am thrilled that we're having this conversation and hearing your journey, because there's something in each and every one of us that I think can resonate with somebody else, right? Maybe just a little bit reminds us of our own personal journey. Mm-hmm. So maybe let's start with your journey of teacher to entrepreneur. When did motherhood come into the play for you? How did you kind of navigate that transition and give yourself that permission to change things up?
Oh man. Okay. So I was pregnant with my first, and he was born in September. So I was pregnant over the summer when teachers are off. And I was just like, this isn't feeling right to be going back to teaching. Like, how can I do something different to be home? And he wasn't even born yet. So I kind of looked at options of what can moms do at home to make some money, right? I didn't want to not do anything. I wanted to contribute in more than just, taking care of my kids. I wanted to contribute financially too. And I found a program for somebody that actually lived here, in the same city that I'm in. And so I was like, okay, this is a real person. It's not just, I don't know, some random person that's trying to sell me something. She seemed like a real person. And I asked my husband, but I was like, what do you think about doing this? And it was basically, she taught you how to start freelancing. She taught you how to start your own business and to do things online at home. And he's like, well, I don't know if this seems like this is something that you could do. Not that I couldn't do, but he was just like, it seems fake. Who would pay you to do, virtual work online? And so I kind of let it go. And then he was born and I had maternity leave and I went back to work in January and I was a mess. I was crying every day at daycare drop off. He got RSV the first week he was there. And I was just like, I couldn't be home because I had used every ounce of sick day, personal day to be off for maternity leave. So I wasn't even the one that got to be home with him and he was sick. I had to be at work. And, your brain is just in 2 different places then. I felt like I wasn't doing either job well. And so I was just like, this can't be what I continue to do. So I brought it up to him again. And over spring break, so kind of in March, I started this program. I was a little slow getting it going. I wasn't one of those, some people who take this program, can do a whole bunch within a couple of weeks. It took me a few months to get going. So I'd already signed on for a contract for another year. And this was going to be my 8th year teaching. So I signed on and over the summer, things were doing really well all of a sudden. And I was like, could I back out of my contract to teach? Sure. But that just felt icky to me. I felt like I wanted to be there, not even just for my students, but for my colleagues. I had a lot of good relationships there. So I stuck it out and taught another year while running this business in the evenings, all while like trying to get pregnant with another one. And then COVID happened, and it was just, it was a year. But I made it. I told them in January I wasn't coming back for the next year. And so I just kind of cruised on through the spring semester. And I actually started as like kind of like a virtual assistant, social media manager, kind of switched to Pinterest management. And then when I built my own website, I loved it so much. I was like, this is where I belong. This is exactly what I need to be doing. And so then I had another baby. Everything just started blossoming from there. Like I found what I wanted to be really doing. My kids were at home with me full time, which was really a really strong blessing when I wasn't super comfortable with COVID and being in a school teaching and then having my kids in daycare. It just I was very thankful that everything hit at the right time. And it was really great. And so then my second one, he's been home with me every day until today when he started preschool. And then I had another baby. And
what a milestone.
It's been kind of a wild ride, but I really just wanted more flexibility in my schedule. I knew that teaching was not going to let me be at his school for like mystery reader day, or I wasn't going to be able to volunteer to, go on field trips someday, or to his Christmas program. I got to go to his first Christmas program last year. And I was like, I would never have been able to do this because it was at like 1 p.m. Like that's not a time that a teacher gets out right before finals or right at finals time. So it's been really good and very healthy for our family, healthy for me mentally. It's been a really good change. And teaching is there if I want it in the future. But right now I feel in a very good position for our family and for myself, really. Yeah.
That's amazing. And I think a lot of what we don't realize until we're going through it ourselves is just how like inflexible the thing we thought we wanted would be when we add in another priority in our lives. And maybe we just touch a little bit on, there's a couple of things I wrote down that I want to touch on. Is first one being just kind of the poor reality of teachers who have children. I mean, I have a girlfriend of mine who had a baby in January, and it's the same scenario almost of like going back, having one in September, right? It's like teachers do their best to plan their births around major holiday breaks, right? Summer breaks. Like, can we try and get pregnant and have a baby in June so I can have these 3 months and I don't have to use sick days? Because the maternity leave is really quite poor, right? You actually have to use sick and personal days, right? As a teacher, at least from the experience that I've had.
It really depends on the school you work for, really, I think. I did teach at a private school, so very different style of things like that. But, and you talk about like, planning when you would have a baby. Like I was really aiming for spring break. So then like I had my students through spring break, we had a good system. And then like I would just cruise through until summer. Life has its ways of deciding that that's not what's going to happen. And it took us longer to have a kid than we thought. So it ended up being like right at the beginning of the school. It was supposed to be October. He was 3 weeks early. So that was also like a stress in life. Yeah. It was not expected. I was not even packed. But it's not great. My school did not have any maternity leave, like any paid maternity leave when we were there. They have now changed that a little bit since I've been there. But there was no paid maternity leave. So any paid leave you wanted to have was either personal days or sick days. And then you could have short-term disability, but you were not given that. You had to pay extra for that. Like that wasn't one of the benefits that was like given to you by the school or part of it. So again, they've changed things since then, which is great. But it was not true for me when I was there. So I was like, and you could only save up so many sick days. And so like, even though I had been there for 7 years when I had my first, I couldn't save all of those sick days from the past years. That didn't roll into, like I could save a few from each year, but I couldn't save all of them. So could I have had like a full paid maternity leave from being there for 7 years if I could roll all those days? Probably, but it didn't end up working out that way. So it's a messy situation in it. And then you think about like how many kids you're going to have and the daycare cost offsetting your salary. And it's not super supportive of moms trying to teach too. Yeah.
Absolutely. And this is the first conversation I'm having with somebody who was in the teaching profession.
Yeah.
And it's not an unsimilar story to other women that I've talked to around just how unsupportive like traditional career paths are for women. And it's so interesting because I feel like growing up, I was always like really supported by my parents to like be independent, build a career, do your own thing, make your money, find what brings you joy, and you do it in these traditional ways. And then you're then asked by those same parents, like, when are you starting a family? Are you having kids? And you want that and you want to do that, but you have no real support in balancing the two identities that you've been faced with. And it's hard to be able to do that. So I am grateful that we're talking about these stories because I think so many of us face that. And not all of us have had the courage yet or the support in place to make this transition. So I want to talk a little bit about this desire you had to do something different, but also this like drive to still financially contribute, because I think money is a huge narrative for a lot of us, especially in our generation, of wanting to still contribute. It's not just enough for a lot of us to be caregivers or stay-at-home moms. And for some of us it is. And for some of us, like myself, it's not 100% fulfilling. And I like lose my mind when I don't have anything else in place for myself. So maybe talk to us a little bit about that drive, that like desire to do something financially, and kind of how you maybe supported yourself in that. Or, you mentioned your husband's skepticism a little bit. I'm like, oh, well, the virtual space, like, how real is that at this point? Like how many people are really going to be paying you in that space? Like, talk to us a little bit about how those narratives like wove itself into this decision. And how did you ultimately get to a point where you were like, I just know this is what I have to do?
Oh gosh. So I originally, when he was like, I don't know about, and I kind of let it go. But as soon as he was born, man, I was obsessed with him. I was obsessed with this baby. And I was just like, I have to do something. I was just not happy with what I was doing. There's a lot of politics that go into the schools and teaching and things like that. That I was just like, this isn't even right for me in the right mindset. Like, even if I didn't even have a child yet, I felt like I was mentally struggling. There was just so much work all the time. There was a lot of mental load. And then you try and, care for another human being and all, and I also was pumping through all of this. And it was just like, nothing felt good. The stress levels were just not good. So he was like, okay, if you want to try this, that's fine. Like, I want you to do what you want. I want you to be fulfilled in life. Like, he's very supportive. He is a very supportive husband. But he's like, we either have to like cut costs somehow, like maybe we don't go on a trip every year or something like that. Like, because we like to travel, we have to try and get out and things. Or, we have to find ways to cut back, or you have to find a way to help where you can. It's obviously not going to be, super highly expected or whatever, but, contribute in some way. So that's when I re-brought up this course, and he was like, okay, let's try it. And I was like, worst case, like, I'll make my money back, like I'll work enough. And then it started really doing well. And he was just like, I can't believe still that people want to pay you to run their social media or whatever. I think he likes what I do now better with websites, because I think he sees the balance better for me, because being on social media all the time is hard with kids. So I think he sees me thriving with it and really loving it. And so that's really all healthy and good for me. So I now have bigger goals for myself than other people have set for me. You know, my parents were really supportive too. They're still supportive. They're always asking me how I'm doing, how's work and things like that. And they were always the ones, especially my mom, who's also a teacher, was always telling me, like, you're not stuck as a teacher. You're so smart. You can do whatever you want to do. You know, she was really supportive in like, go find something else. If this isn't right for you, then go find something else. Which she stayed home with us for a little while too. So she gets it, you know, she's like, they're only little this one time. So everyone was really supportive, but now I have the strong drive. I want to be like this great business that puts out really good stuff. You know, I want to be self-fulfilled. And I get that with every client that I meet that I get to build their website for, or impress them with, some strategy and some design and things like that. So I have income goals, absolutely, but it's more so I just really love what I'm doing now. And I just want to do more of it. I just want to continue doing more of it because it's not even just creative. It's tech-based. Like I love all of the pieces behind it. And I know not everybody likes that. Not everybody likes to build a website because they feel overwhelming. But it is truly,
and that's
what
why you
I
have
love.
clients.
Yeah, exactly. It's really what I love doing. Like it is the right spot for where I am in life and what I enjoy doing. So I don't know if I answered your question with that, but
you did. Absolutely. Absolutely. And I think there's like a lot to be said for like trusting yourself and the timeline on all of this and kind of really just being in tune. And I feel like a lot of the conversations I've been having lately are around getting quiet and listening to your own body. Because I think a lot of times our minds can get us all tangled up in what should be or what could be or what's expected of us, or, we have to support in other ways financially or whatever, right? Our minds can get us all like looped up in that. But if we can get quiet enough and listen to our bodies will tell us what really is aligned with our values and where we want to be in this stage of life. And I really love the evolution that you had of kind of going from you just know teaching's not it, right? It wasn't really aligning for you anymore, to moving into virtual assistant work, to the social media management, kind of seeing like you're sort of there, you're not really there. And instead of giving up and being like, oh, this was a terrible idea, you just continued to evolve. So maybe talk to us a little bit about the timeline of that. So you gave us kind of the preview. You had your first son, you were in teaching for another year and change, probably maybe 2 years at that point, if I'm following correctly. You decided to move in. At what point did you start the like online world work to where you are now? Like what's the timeline on that?
Let's see. I started trying to build things back in March of 2019. Didn't even land my first client until June, I think. So it took me a while. I was still teaching, but it still took me a while. And then that wasn't really enough yet to say, okay, I can do this instead of teaching it. I still needed time to grow. But then come August, then I was doing even better. And I was like, well, now I don't know how to balance teaching for another year and all this. So I kind of was like, okay, this is enough client load for now. Let's just hold off on taking on more. And then in January of 2020 was when I told them I wasn't coming back. And then I was actually pregnant at the time, but that wasn't the reason. That was a whole other year. Another reason to be very thankful for this lifestyle is I actually ended up having 3 miscarriages that year. Very early ones, but I actually had miscarried that baby, and I was just, I had 2 more while I was at home, and it was like, well, thank goodness I didn't have to teach through more than one, it was, anyways, because, you can't take off work to grieve.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
I was able to be home for that stuff, but besides the point. So then March of 2020 hit, obviously. And so then my husband's working from home. I'm trying to teach online from home with our 1.5-year-old crawling over us. And it was just like,
Oh, gosh.
whoa,
Yeah.
there was a lot of like figuring out how we can make this work. And then on top of that, I'm still, working on client work too. So didn't go back for the 2021 year. I was done in May. And so then I started picking up clients and things. But I think I built my own first website that December. So I did social media and Pinterest stuff all the way through until December. Maybe it wasn't quite December, because I think I took my first website client in December. But I was like, I loved it. Maybe it was in the fall sometime. And I loved it so much. I was like, this is what I have to do. This is what I have to do. So I took on my first client in December of 2020 and was like, yep, this is right. So I started moving that direction. And as time kind of went on, I still had social media or Pinterest clients and things that I was kind of doing things for, until they all kind of dwindled off on their own. Like everyone was at some point was like, oh, I have my sister joining the team for such and such reason. She's going to take over the Pinterest. I'm like, okay. And I kind of just let those go as they went. I even had a Pinterest client all the way until, like the end of last year, even though that was my only Pinterest client left. But I was just like, time will tell when it's time, and there was a moment that we were both like, okay, this is the time. So I kind of just slowly, I guess, transitioned into web design, but like those became the only new clients I was taking on, if that makes sense.
Yeah, totally. Yeah. So you had said you had really figured out your love of this like creative tech blending opportunity with doing web design when you built one for yourself. Did you take any like additional courses or education on web design before you took on more clients, or were you kind of leveraging your just personal experience as you transitioned into like the more like paying space?
Yeah. Took numerous courses. So when I built my first course or first website, that was actually from like a course. They kind of started a course and they were like, we're going to show you how to build this website. And it was kind of template based. Like everyone's kind of looked the same, but you added your own stuff, but it was still like enough of an intro that I was like, yep, this feels good. And it was built in the same way that I build websites now. Like we used Elementor and like the host that I, all the process is very similar. I just now build it instead of, importing pages. And so then after that, somebody I knew was creating a course on how to like get all your systems in place for being a web designer. And I was like, okay, this seems good. This seems great. And she also built websites. So I took her course to get kind of all those systems in place. I also took one that was more heavily code based. So I could learn some of kind of like the back end types of, the deeper stuff. And then I think maybe about a year after all of that got me through a lot. That got me through the point where I had like a good flow of how I wanted to build websites, what was the process for me, things like that. And then I was like, okay, now I want to up level a little bit more. And so then I took another course that was more, so it had all the system stuff on it too, but I already had that figured out. I didn't necessarily need too much of that. It's helpful to have, but I didn't need too much more of it. But, she also then taught you how to offer branding. And so I was like, okay, that could be something that I could offer. So I learned from that. And she's also an amazing designer. And I was like, any way to learn from her, even if it's the smallest little bit that I could learn from her is amazing. But, she goes into more of the design pieces. And so I learned a lot from her too. I don't know if that's a teacher in me or if I just have always loved learning. Like even now, if I could go and take like a college class just for fun, I would do it. Like I love to learn new stuff. I don't really necessarily want to do like all the tests and the studying, but I would just love to go and sit and listen to something
and absorb. Yeah.
And absorb.
Totally.
Yeah. And like in person, like I love doing things online, obviously. but like, there's something to just like sit there and listen to someone talk about something passionately, you know? So.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
I feel like side note, like there's like a whole bunch of podcasts out there these days that are actually like academic lectures, just like repurposed onto podcasts, which I find so cool. And I haven't like dipped my toe in that, but I feel like there's so much opportunity now to like also do that on your own time. So there's really no reason why we shouldn't just start to like see what piques our curiosities. And I am curious, like from your perspective, like somebody who's feeling this desire, maybe this was like, picture somebody that was in your shoes when you were first starting to feel the frustrations of teaching and having your first kid and not being able to have the flexibility and the fulfillment that you expected to have. Like, they want to start something new. Like, how do they find, from your experience, like a course that's right for them? I guess like one that, I mean, you said you like their first course was somebody who was in the same town as you or a nearby town that you recognize, right? So it gave this person a little bit more like, not validity, but like real existence, right? It's actually a real person like teaching something and not just like ads you're seeing on Instagram. So like, what's your advice to somebody who's looking to start and not really sure where to like dip their toe first?
Yeah. Well, I first want to say that any teachers listening, you're not stuck. Like, I felt stuck. I felt like as the degree I earned, that is all I had to do. There was nothing else I felt like I could do. That's not true. There are a lot of options out there for us. And I'm seeing tons of teachers do it every day, like all the time. I see a new teacher that's decided to do something different with their life. To find a course or program or whatever, really, I feel like asking if you can find referrals is the best. Like, I even sought out somebody that had taken this program because I think she was like a name on like one of the testimonials, or I'm not sure how I found her. And I just like reached out to her on I don't know if it was Facebook or Instagram, social media somehow. And I was like, can you tell me, about this program? Like, do you love it? Was it worth it? And she had nothing but great things to say. And I was like, that was the little extra piece that I needed to feel confident in it, because they're not inexpensive. All these programs, they're not inexpensive, but they are much less than trying to go find a new degree, like going back to school. They're much less than, your mental, if you're struggling mentally, then that's not doing you any favors either. And you can always you can always make back that money. Like it seems like a lot because we feel nervous, but it's not. In the end, it makes it so much better. So I liked seeking a referral because yes, the ads on Instagram, they feel authentic. They really do.
Who's powering them.
But it's like, is this going to actually help me? Is this where I need to be? And it really helped that this person was also a teacher, and she was like, I wanted to be home with my kids, so there was like that connection too. And I knew the school, like there was just a lot of connection based things, but I don't know that there's necessarily a bad program out there. Like, everyone's really trying to do their best to help other women and other moms like us. But if you needed like a specific route, or if you wanted to know something specifically, seek some names and ask them about it. Really, I mean,
yeah, I love that.
I actually reached out to the coach too. I sent her an email, and I was like, "Can you tell me more?" And she responded right away, and I was like, "Okay, like this feels real. This feels good." So
yeah. I love that. I think there's a lot to be said for like community support, right? If there's somebody that you see, because I think a lot of nervousness or hesitation comes in because we think whatever we do next has to be the right path because we're spending money on it financially, or we're dedicating time to it, or we're stepping away from something that gives us security, right? So I think there's a lot of nervousness and hesitation that way. So there's really no harm done with just starting a conversation, right? If there's somebody that you see on social media, or you come across them in a networking event that you're like, oh, I'm curious how my life could look if I did what she does, or, am implementing some of the things that she does for her clients. Like, oh, I feel like I could really do that. I feel like that's the first indicator of like, just talk to that person. And I think when it comes to business and it comes to motherhood and the delicate harmony between the two, the community support is key. So I love that advice. Just start having conversations around it. You will start to feel what feels icky, what feels really good, and trial and error, right? We don't always have to know exactly what it is that we want to do. And if we can maybe lower the risk a little bit and figure out kind of where we're tolerant of taking some chances, it really could align with moving us in a direction that makes us feel really good. So I'm grateful for that advice. And I think there's like a lot of excitement now. Like you can like feel like things can shift in the way that we want them to. We don't have to feel stuck. And it doesn't have to be this like big financial contribution or cut, right, on our ends necessarily. And it can be done if we find something that aligns with that. So I love that. That just like feels really good.
We're moms. We have pretty good gut instincts, I feel like, too. Like if something doesn't feel
true.
right, you know.
Yeah.
So I feel like
totally
some of it is related to that, too. You feel good about something, or you're like, no, I don't know about this. But not feeling stuck is what I feel like is what's most critical. I don't know. At least in the teacher realm, I felt like I got an education degree. I was stuck in education, but I don't even touch that degree right now. And then it's fine. It's totally fine.
I'm sure you probably do in some capacity, but maybe, like the skills you learned while you did it, maybe not like the content, but, in some capacity.
That's true. I do always try to teach my clients how to, work their website after I give it back to them and things like that. So I guess there's some aspect in there, but I'm definitely not teaching like college algebra or anything.
That's fair. Yeah. I want to talk a little bit about this kind of balance that you have of working from home with your kids being home. So you have a little one who's under a year, and you have a 2-year-old, and then you have your oldest so 2 of the 3 of them just started going to school part-time. So talk to us a little bit about how you're able to do both during your days, and what do those days look like?
Oh, 3 kids is just chaos.
It probably changes. Yeah.
It's every day is a new day. So my oldest is almost 5, and this is his 3rd year at preschool. But again, he's only went 2 days a week. This year he's doing 3, which we're very excited about. 2-year-old, almost 2.5, just started. So today is his very first day of being in anywhere but our home. So kind of nervous to see how that goes, but
what a champ.
I know, I'm hoping it goes well. And then I have an almost 6-month-old. So every day we figure out what we can do. So I really try to balance not working weekends if I can. I try to spend as much of the day not on my computer if I can, which seems weird as a web designer. So what I do is we get up, we have breakfast, everybody's fed. And then not every day, but every now and then, I come in and I check emails. I kind of, do the little easy tasks that, might take only a few minutes, or while they're, playing cars in the living room or something, like that. And baby is now, sleeping, a good solid nap in the mornings, which is really helpful. And then she gets up, and then everybody has lunch. And then the older 2, my oldest has never stopped nap time, quote unquote. But he hasn't napped since he was like 2.5. We just kind of kept giving him a space to go and be away from me because we need a break from each other in a day. So he does a rest time. He sits and he reads books, or he listens to an audiobook. He started doing that. He has like one of those Tony boxes, and he was listening to that for a few years. But mostly now he just sits and reads books or plays with Legos for like 2 hours. It's magical. While the 2-year-old naps. He's still napping. I don't know how much longer I'm going to have that, and we'll have to like readjust course again. But baby hangs out with me while I'm working. She's either on my lap or on the floor next to me, and I work those 2 hours straight. That is my biggest chunk of work time, is the 1 to 3 o'clock. And that is when I do most of the work, really, in a day. Because once they're back up, they're all over the place again and loud, and
they're rested and they're ready to go.
They are ready. They are pumped. But some, they might get a little afternoon screen time if I'm trying to, knock out a deadline or finishing up something, something like that. Like if they're not going to sit and be quiet, even if they're not quiet, if they can't play by themselves for, like a little bit longer, then they did get a little screen time or something. Like we just put on a show for a little bit, and then every now and then I'll work in the evening, but it is not all 5 days of the week. Like it might be 1, maybe 2, I'm not pumping the hours out here. I'm working 15 hours a week, maybe. And that's the balance that we just have right now. I would actually really love to be working more. But I'm trying to find that balance, of these kids are little now, and I wanted to stay home with them, to be with them when they were little. And then I found my own self-fulfilling of, I like doing my own business, but I like doing this too. And so I'm still trying to find, it's a continuous thing of me trying to find the balance. Some days I don't do it well. Yesterday, I didn't do it well. I was working way too much. But it's, most days I think I do a pretty good job trying to be present with them and accomplish the client work that I want to do. So when they're all in school someday, I'll work a lot more. And I'm like, that's a someday. It'll be fine when I get there. But I don't want to lose the momentum I have now, like the drive that I have going now. So I don't want to just stop and then pick up in a couple of years. So I'm okay with it being, I would almost say it's like my full-time job because it's the only job I'm doing, but I'm not doing it 40 hours a week, So depends on how you classify full-time versus part-time. But part-time mom, part-time web designer, I don't know. Full-time both, I have no idea.
Both.
Full-time both, yeah.
That's where
it definitely takes up brain capacity all day for both things, but
yeah.
It's the balance I have now, and so that's what we go with.
That's perfect. And I want to talk a little bit about and ask you how you take that kind of home life goal, right? Wanting to be present with your kids and balancing kind of that in the work and their nap times and whatever. How did you align yourself with clients that were supportive of that? Like what does the, knowing you only get to work certain number of hours, you don't want to work weekends, ideally you don't want to work late into the night to accomplish this. Like how do you bring on the client load and the right type of clients to what boundaries do you put in place on the work side to allow for that flexibility on the home side?
I could be better about that. I'll be honest. But
we all can.
Yeah, I could be better about I can't do this right now, but instead I'll be like, oh, I'll just pop on for 10 minutes and fix this, whatever. But a lot of it has to do with, they already know that I'm a mom. Like it is, I put it everywhere. Like it's on social, it's on, my website. Like if they're coming to me, they already know that I'm a mom. They might not know that my kids are home with me all the time when they start like they first come to me. But it seems like almost every, potential client call I have, like we always set up a call and talk through their current goals for their website and things like that. Almost every one of those calls, I have a child either come talk to me or be on my lap or what, and it's just, I work with mostly moms, but pretty much all women. So I feel like we're all very understanding of each other. And I work with a lot of people in the online space that are kind of doing similar things. They're a coach or they're a therapist or they're all doing things that are supporting almost other women and other moms too. So it's like we're all in this thing together. And so nobody seems to care when, I have a baby on my lap. One client said that in like her testimonial after like we completed the project, she thanked me for that because she said it made me seem human. Another client said, oh, you should have your baby on every potential client call that you have, because if they care that you have a baby with you, then they're not a client for you. And I was like, you're right.
Right.
I think better without them. But that. I was like, the right people are out there, and
yeah.
If that person doesn't want to work with me because the baby's on my lap, then I take that almost as a win, like that means it wasn't a good fit for either one of us, because
totally.
We're thick in the mom life. So yeah.
Totally. And I think like it also just reminds us that like the mom space, like I feel like I come from a corporate world, a corporate background, and it was all like market research. How many people are able, how many people are in this market that you want to try and sell this product to? And you're like looking at, long-term, pipelines and things like that. And it's interesting because you think about not wanting to like pigeonhole yourself into like a certain like niche or whatever. And we, as a mom, like business owner space, are massive. There are so many of us just trying to do what works for us and what works for our family and still give ourselves that like, drive and fulfillment. So I just love that reminder of like, you will find clients that work for you. If it's in this space, there are plenty of them. There's no shortage. We can all support one another. I love that. Okay, I want to talk briefly before we get like too lost in the long term, like the time of this, about web design and strategy a little bit, because from personal experience, never know when to actually bring on somebody who does this for a living and has like expertise in this space. And like when I started this podcast, like I hate my website, I'll tell you. I mean, okay, let me rephrase. I don't hate my website. I made this website because I wanted to not be a barrier to entry. I didn't want to like not start this podcast without a website, but I also like didn't want to be like lost in perfection and like not start the podcast because I didn't think my website was the best it could be. So there's a lot of things on there that I like, every time I'm on there, I'm like, oh, I got to make sure I remember to change that. Got to make sure I remember to change that. Or, oh, I should optimize this a little bit. And it's not my arena. I don't like to spend time in there. I do it when I have to. But at what point do you find that clients are coming to you? Like, are they people who are just starting out? Are they people who have built their own and are like, I need to optimize? Like, when should somebody bring in someone like you?
I'm going to say it's different for everybody. And it really depends on the business too. Like if you're a brick and mortar business, I would almost argue most people expect you to have a website, or they're just not going to believe that you're there, versus the online space. I know people who have been running a business for 5 years that don't have a website, and they're doing just fine with like a portfolio that they made. Like you have to weigh what it's going to do for you, if that makes sense. As a web designer, I need one. I feel like I should have a website.
Yeah.
So it really depends. I get a variety. I get some that, are just starting a business. I get some that have been in it for a while. I get, some that have already had a website and just want to like add on certain pieces to it. Like they need a new landing page or they need some changes made. Or they want to add e-commerce now all of a sudden. Or they've been selling in like a third party platform and now want to have their own website to sell on. So there's a wide variety, and it really depends on that business's goals and where they're at and whether it's time, really. That's not a great answer, I don't think, but you have to kind of think about what are your goals for your website? That's going to be one of the first questions I ask on a call is what's your goal for your website? Because I don't want to just sell a website to sell it. I want it to do something for you. So I don't want to just be like, oh, you want a website? Like, let's make one. Let's make sure you need one, and let's make sure it's the right website for you and your business. So I kind of feel like it's different for everyone, and it just depends. And yeah, some people might DIY the first time or even the second time, and they're like, I don't like doing this, or I don't like how it's, or maybe it's not converting. And then they'll come to me, that type of thing. They come from all wide range of places in their business, but it really depends.
I love that. So do you do a lot of like initial project work, or do you come on to like optimize websites and then there's like a monthly maintenance package? Like, how do clients tend to work with you?
Most are coming for a new, fresh, just starting website. Either they didn't have one, or they don't like it and they just want to start over. Not many. And I'm slightly picky about who I take on for adding things on or editing their current sites. Because websites are all made very differently. There are a lot of ways to make a website. And some will take longer than others, basically. And so I'm somewhat selective about which types of websites I'll take on. Like, I only do WordPress. So if someone comes to me and says, I have a Squarespace or a Showit or whatever, and I'm like, I'm not going to be the right person for you. But even within WordPress, there's like a wide variety of what their website backend could look like. So sometimes if they're open to, walking me through their back end to show me how their website was built, then maybe I'll be open to working on their current website, depending on what that looks like. If I think, and it has happened before, if I think that all of their current goals for what they want to make changes for aren't going to be very easy. Not easy. I don't want to say it like that. It's that I'm not taking on, something that's challenging. But like, some things just aren't as possible with the way certain websites are built. And it's like really in depth on that. But, like they want to make this changes. And I was like, well, I can show you how to do that. And it might take some custom coding, but then you're going to have to custom code that every time you make that, like if you make a new blog post, you're going to have to custom code that, And so it's not even necessarily always easy for me, but it's like, I want it to be easy for the client too. And so sometimes I'm like, okay, well, here's all the changes we could make. It's going to cost this much. This is what you're going to have to do when I hand it back to you. Versus if we just want to build it in a new way and make it easier for you forever type of thing, So sometimes we have to weigh that option too. It just, again, it depends. It depends on how their website was built and how deep we have to go.
Yeah. I love that. I mean, I love that too, because it also shares and like showcases your boundaries of like what, like you can do it, but ultimately, is it the best thing for the client in the long run? Possibly not, right? Because the goal is to hand them off a website that works for them, not makes them work harder to continue to execute it. So
I feel very passionate
I can appreciate
about
that.
them being able to do that. I want them to feel confident getting into the back end of their website and knowing where they can make changes. And if that's not an easy thing, then I don't always know if it's worth it. And I'll be the first to say, I do not know everything about websites. Like I know how to do certain things, but I did not go to school for 4+ years for this,
Right.
So I can't, I like to fix things, but there's some things that I'm like, I don't even know how to fix that. So, if I don't know how, are you going to want to know how, and we're all learning and, I Google a lot, but there's only, everyone has their limits at some point, I feel like. So.
Totally.
Yeah.
I love that. And I appreciate that. And I think those listening can also appreciate when they reach out to somebody and somebody's honest with them of it's not the right fit, or maybe that's not the best path per my recommendation, right? And they take it or leave it. They can take that guidance, or they can go find somebody else who's willing to do it for them. And, they deal with it in the long run. I want to get your opinion on somebody who's starting out and they perhaps don't, they've just decided they want to, make a transition into, something in the online space. And want to build a website, but they haven't made any money yet on the business, or they haven't signed their first client, but they feel the need is there for something. What do you recommend to somebody who's just starting out, who's going to kind of DIY a first website? Like, what are the, like, I don't know, 2 or 3 pages that every website like must have that they should start?
It depends on what they do. But let's say it's someone in the online space, right? In some sort of service provider. I would have a homepage because it seems expected. A services page outlining what you do, how you can help them. If you want to include pricing, pros and cons to that, but then you can have that on there. What are the next steps to working with you, that type of thing. And definitely some way to contact you, whether that's a call link to, like book a certain call on a calendar, or if it's just a form that gets sent to you, they need to be able to contact you. And that needs to be in, the next steps to working with you. They need to know what is the next step. If you also want to include an about page, that's great too, but you can also include those pieces in a home and a services page if you wanted to. But your about page is, is how people connect with you. That's how you, why did you start your business, and what's your story, and why do you want to help other people? It's not necessarily like, oh, I'm such and such and I live in such and such. It's more of like building that connection piece with your audience.
Yeah, I love that. And I think probably simple is better, right? I would argue, don't go
overly
too
word
complicated.
It. Yep.
Yeah, not overly wordy. I feel like maybe I should take my own advice and reevaluate my website at the moment. We're always evaluating and changing.
Always changing.
Always. I love that. Well, thank you so much for those pieces of advice and sharing your story. I want to give you just a quick minute or so. How can our listeners find you? How can they engage with you? How can they work with you? How can they just learn more about you?
Absolutely. So you can find me at kelseyromine.com. That's my website. Everything you want to know about working with me is on there, but I can do branding. I can do WordPress websites from start to finish, built from scratch. Like I build out each page uniquely for you. And on Instagram, I'm on there a lot, probably too much. And that is at kelsey.m.romine. And that's linked on my website too, because that's easier. But I'm on there all the time. And Perfect. I am not super annoying on there. I mostly share mom life and things like that. But that's the easy way to connect.
And we love that.
Me. Yeah.
Perfect. And we'll make sure to link them too in the show notes of the episode. But Kelsey, thank you again for being here.
Thank you so much for having me. It was wonderful to talk to you.
Thanks so much for listening to today's episode. If you liked what you heard, please help us out and leave a review wherever you listen, and consider sharing with your friends. If you're interested in learning a bit more about the project or want to share your story, please visit our website linked in our show notes below.